There is a lot of talk about karma, the law of karma. I should do this work or should not do this work. That is the ABC of the karma. There must be an attitude within, a motive should be very clear. When that motive and the intention is very clear about any karma, it will help us to enlighten. You need not to sit in a meditation every day. You need not to go to the Himalayas. Recognize the way you are performing your karma. And the origin of that karma is a motive inside my head. And the motive, behind that motive, you can say there is some kind of a thought that propels me. And that thought contains the desire. And if I drop that desire while performing a karma, what is that desire? Desire for fruits. So desire for fruit in the mind at the time of doing the karma, there is a conflict between the present and the future. I am seeking fruits of that karma in the future and doing the karma in the present. Karma is always in the present, neither in the past or in the future. So, because of attachment, because of delusion, my mind constantly is seeking the fruits of that action while performing a karma. And that builds my ego. I'm doing it. I must get the result. If we get rid of these two in the mind while performing any karma, it brings the deeper meditative state. And what is the goal of meditation? It reveals the knowledge of reality. A young monk read somewhere that I should be, if I practice some kind of a mantra, and there are mantras. So he practiced austerity with that mantra in the forest. And after a few years, he realized that he gained a lot of power. He was sitting in meditation under a tree. His inner motivation has not changed. But even by practice, I can get those powers. So when he was sitting under a tree, a crow and the crane was fighting on the top of the tree, which made this young monk angry. So he willed that they should be killed. So, because he willed, he has the power, and so both the crane and the crow were killed, burnt into the fire. So, usually in a tradition, when you are living in a forest as a young monk, you have to go to minimum 3 houses to beg for the food. So he knocked the door in the village, first house, he knocked the door. A voice came from inside the house, "Wait a little, my son. Wait a little, my son." Now you see that the young monk which had the power, his ego identification with that. How dare that woman says wait. But anyhow, he waited. At last the women came out of the house, opened the door. My son, I do not know your yoga or your practices, but I know you were angry at me. And I also know that you burned the crow and the crane in the forest. I am a common, everyday woman. I made you wait because my husband is ill. And I am bound for my duty and responsibility without ego, without the fruits of an action. And all my life I have been performing the karma free from the ego and free from the desire for fruits of an action. I performed the duty when I was at my parents' home. I am performing my duty, my karma, without any attachment or identification. So I have read your thought. And the monk was astonished. So she again read the thought that was going on in the mind of a monk. So she said, okay, if you want to know a little more, you go to a person who has a meat shop in the city and ask him the secret of my knowing and reading your thoughts. First time the young monk thought he was egoized. Why should I go? I know everything. But anyhow, he thought, let me go and find out. So he went to the city and he saw that guy was cutting the meat, the flesh, and selling it. He glanced at the monk and he said, wait, let me finish my duty. My duty? I have become a meat seller, so I have to perform my role well. And after a few hours, young monk looked at him. A lot of people came there to buy the meat. After a few hours, when he performed his duty as a meat seller. I know you were sent by that woman in the village where you knocked the door to beg, and I also know that you were angry at her in the beginning. I also know that you had an ego. Why should you come to me? But at last you came to me. That meat eater, meat seller was very calm. That amazed the young monk. Why you are doing this? Such a ugly business. And you always seem so calm. You performed your duty as a play and a fun that I could realize. Why you are performing such a wretched business? The meat seller said, no duty is ugly. No duty is impure. My birth placed me in these circumstances and environment. But whatever the trade I am in, I am totally unattached. I am totally detached. And I play my role. When I go to the shop, I become a meat seller, meat cutter. But I'm different than the meat seller. I'm not that what you and people think from outside. Why it happened? I don't perform any duty with an idea of an ego that I'm a meat seller. Meat seller just for the namesake. I'm playing my role. When I come to my house, I play my role as a father in front of my kids. I play my role as a husband before my wife. I play my role as a son before my parents. We can live our life in meditation here and now, 24/7, while performing an action, the karma, provided we change the motive inside. The karma detached with I-ness, the karma detached with the fruits of an action. You do any karma, you enter into the state of meditation.